Welcome to the My Amazon Guy podcast. My name is Stephen Pope. I'm the founder of My Amazon Guy. We've got a treat today with Tyler Jefcoat coming in from Seller Accountant. Welcome to the show, Tyler.
Thanks, Stephen. Good to be here, buddy.
So Tyler is a numbers man, and we have a subject matter to talk today about how to calculate some strategy based on some of those numbers. Tyler also has some nice, neat graphic data to show, to give us some bright lines as we're talking today. We'll go through that as well. So Tyler, first of all, for those that don't know about Seller Accountant, what does Seller Accountant do, just so people know?
Yeah, so Seller Accountant, we do two things. Fancy bookkeeping, which means if you're a e-commerce brand and you might have to get through due diligence, you can't do easy bookkeeping, you got to do it right. And so we do that bookkeeping, and then we serve as the fractional CFO or kind of financial coach for about 150 million a year in e-commerce sales.
Great. Thank you for that, Tyler. Set you up as an expert. We've also had Tyler on our podcast multiple times. Thank you for doing that video the other day last week on how to find your tax info in Seller Central with that nice video tutorial. We've also had Tyler back on in March, and as well as last year in 2020. We've talked about profit versus growth. We've talked about how the FBA data aggregate averages. And so keep having Tyler come back on because he keeps adding value. So let's talk about today's subject. We're talking about like the pure marketplace play versus having a direct-to-consumer angle like a Shopify website. And kind of ultimately the main thesis question today is, how can I make the most money, Tyler? What should I be doing?
Yes, I mean, this has been kind of a thought experiment for our team over the last 2 months, Stephen, and it really is. Everybody wants an easy one-size-fits-all answer, right? Okay, here's the linear path. And in fact, Stephen, you and I might have talked about it a couple of years ago, which is I need something easy, so I get on Amazon's marketplace. But once I get a certain scale, this would be the prevailing wisdom, I need to pivot and have a Shopify site so that I can capture my customers' information and I can maybe be more profitable, have more diversity in my sales. But what we're learning is we're seeing more and more of our customers and partners get acquired is that isn't always the right decision. Understanding whether your product blend is the right kind of product blend, the right kind of strategic offering that you should be on Shopify is really important, because if you have the wrong blend, it's not that it's impossible. With the right amount of time and money, you can kind of do anything. But because we don't have infinite time or infinite money, we've got to be really strategic so that we don't waste our time, so that we don't waste our money. And we can, I don't know if you ever used this mantra, Stephen, but there's this thing called strategic laziness. How can I pull the fewest number of levers to get the result I want? And so that's what I want.
Strategic laziness just be strategy in general?
Yeah, that's right. It's like, it isn't a good strategy unless it is actually strategic and helps you to do fewer things and do it well. So well said, for sure.
All right. So give me an example of a brand type, a category, if you will, where going direct to consumer on Shopify makes zero sense. Shouldn't do it.
Yeah. So a great example. We have a friend of ours here at Seller Accountant, sells almost 8 figures a year in white paper bags, really good bags on Amazon, almost 100% Amazon. And a product like a white paper bag, when his customer pulls the trigger to purchase the bags, the 10 pack, 20 pack, 100 pack, whatever it is, they are primarily purchasing something that they need, and they want it cheap and they want it convenient. There's not a lot of natural brand connection around a white paper bag. It's a bag. It's a bag, right? And so he could invest lots and lots of money in building an email list and having a funnel that drives traffic to a Shopify site and then fulfill the unit. But my gosh, he's not going to get a lot of repeat customers because there's not a lot of brand centricity around a white paper bag, right? And so the opposite case study is, somebody who sells very much a lifestyle business. In fact, Stephen, you and I have a customer in common that sells an incredible cocktail shaker, right? And he's just got a really differentiated product, has a bunch of intellectual
crushing it right now. Yeah.
Crushing it. And you guys are doing a great job, by the way, for him. But
thank you.
That guy's product goes first on Kickstarter, makes $1 million before he knows which way is up, goes to Shopify, builds $1 million business before he knows which way is left. And then, of course, because of how great my Amazon guy is, goes to Amazon and is crushing it. He needs to be everywhere that he can address customers because his product is highly differentiated. And so he can develop a long-term relationship with a customer, where the white paper bag guy, he can't do that.
So let's take a step back and look at the macro for a moment. What is changing about how we define a private label brand strategy?
Yeah. So can I show my little screen here?
Yeah, let's go for it. So let's go to this. Let's go to the 2-shot here with
All
the
right.
graphic
So
and walk
for
us
those of
through.
you,
What are we looking at?
all right. So the way I see it, these names, you guys could help me on some better names for these different definitions of brand. But you go to a conference or you're talking to friends, and everyone wants to have a private label brand. But there are actually some very different business models that could all equal a brand. And so the one that's on top here is kind of what we call a white label arbitrage. In other words, I don't own a brand, but I own the listing on Amazon because I've bought the product in, call it like Honda's box. I got a part for a Honda car. I bought it in their box. I take it out of their box and put it in my box and slap my label on it. And I am leveraging an arbitrage opportunity so that I can control the listing on Amazon and not have to compete for the buy box. Technically, you could go ahead.
I like that definition, by the way. So the white label kit arbitrage, it's like, let me go buy the Me Too product, the Alibaba product, and I'm just one of many. Got it. Okay, I'm with you on this one.
Yeah. And so that's a great model. I've got some friends,
It works.
Steven, you and I both have friends that are 8-figure profitable white label kit arbitrage. But they don't need to be doing direct to consumer. My goodness, no. They need to use data, really, really in-depth data to select the right arbitrage opportunities as quickly as possible, kit them as quickly as possible, and get them on the marketplace as quickly as possible. They need to be 100% Amazon.com. Forget about Canada, forget about Europe, forget about everything that's not called Amazon.com. And so that definition of a brand is a good one, but know who you are and stay in your lane. And so then any comments about that kind of arbitrage guy?
No, I think that's perfect. Let's go to the supply chain arbitrage. Walk me through this one.
So the ones that, Stephen, when you and I go to like the Prosper Show or one of these other shows and we hear talks about traditional private label sellers, we're really talking about Tyler's second category here, which I'm calling a supply chain arbitrage. Now, this I've actually trademarked my logo. I have done the work of calling a supplier in Asia, normally in China, and I am creating. I'm deleting Walmart as the middleman. I'm deleting the traditional bricks and mortar, and therefore I get to charge a small premium. Again, if I'm this business, that's great. In fact, I would say most private label brands as they start out are right here in the second one. But I got to be really slow to go direct to consumer because my real competitive advantage is that I can source products from Asia cheaper than I can sell them and advertise them on Amazon's marketplace. And so my strategy needs to be stay focused on marketplace. I am going to be very slow to expand internationally. I'm going to be very slow to expand into even eBay unless I'm dumping and liquidating products. And so we can get into the measurements later. So the third option here is some of these, the sellers that are private label that are making more money have done the effort to really brand. They've got a beautiful, brand registry 2.0. They've done the A+ content. They've done the stuff that you could speak more intelligently to than I could, Stephen, to make their brand legit on the marketplace, right? It's not just a half-assed label on a box that I sent in that I own the listing, and I didn't have to kit it. I actually have taken some time to invest in this brand. And for this guy, the guy that's a heavily branded private label seller, now I'm going to really start thinking about, once I've established my brand on Amazon, I might want to go ahead and launch a Shopify site, but it's completely dependent on my timeline. And so if I'm this kind of orange one in the middle here, the heavily branded guy, if I'm going to be exiting in the next year, I'm T-minus 12 months, I'm trying to get cash, I am unlikely to get a return on my investment if I start throwing a lot of effort at a Shopify site. I wish I could, but I'm likely to spend more money and time than I'm going to get back. If I have more than a couple of years, let's say 24 months plus, then I may actually have tremendous return on investment to go ahead and expand to Amazon EU, which is just another marketplace, or go ahead and invest heavily in my direct-to-consumer model. But I need to realize that I'm still good, Stephen.
So as you go through these tiers here, why is a private label arbitrage investment and exit value only $1 sign versus the supply chain where you're getting the second one? What is it about the supply chain that increases your value?
So the supply chain is the first one. So the bright blue, the second option. This is the first option where I actually truly kind of own the brand from the factory, right? If I'm that top option, the white label, I literally am calling it, hey, can I get a pallet of your stuff for a wholesale price? And then I'm going to turn around, and this is not a bad business model, but if I'm the white label, my job is to take the Yeti cup and to add the cleaner to it, because I know the clients tend to buy them together, and I'm going to still essentially sell something that is Yeti's brand, but I've called it my own. I own the listing because I've added the whatever cleaner to it or something like that. And so that's different than I've gone all the way to Asia, and I'm actually going to start to finish own brand. It just may not be a very sophisticated brand. It's frankly a brand that Amazon's way more important than I am. And that's that supply chain arbitrage. It's a real brand, but if I'm honest with myself, I still haven't developed a highly differentiated product. I'm just leveraging the fact that I can order it from a supplier in China cheaper, right? Then I'm not just getting on Alibaba. I probably have a relationship with my factory. And as a result, I can sell and get a more, a higher exit value. The flip side of it is I'm going to have to spend more money buying inventory. I can't just pay for it on consignment or within a month, like an arbitrage guy can. A supply chain private label seller, I'm actually going to have to run my inventory. I probably don't own a warehouse. It's probably going directly to FBA, but I've got some brand value. I just don't have as much brand value as if I've done more effort to build a brand. Yeah.
So when you use the word kit, you actually are, like take an actual Yeti brand product, but just throw an add-on item to it. You're not roping into that, like, hey, I bought from Alibaba and I just threw my brand on it. So
right. That's right.
So, okay. So that's your bright line. Okay. So supply chain arbitrage, then you're not selling somebody else's brand. You're selling your own item. You've sourced it from Alibaba. I'm following you.
Right. That's
okay.
Right. That's
so let's go to the third one. What is the difference between that and heavily branded private label?
So this is where I really want all of us to be if we're the second one. So if you're a supply chain arbitrage seller, like say you've gone directly to Asia, but you haven't invested in trademarking your brand, in doing the A+ content and being brand registered and doing the blocking and tackling of building an avatar for the person I'm selling to and actually developing my language around that, I want to highly encourage you, partner with my Amazon guy, but like, let's do the little things to build a brand that is going to look legit on Amazon. I mean, we've all looked at Amazon listings that are garbage. Pope, you and I a couple of years ago looked at a toothpick brand that had like, do you remember those photos the guy had? It was like,
yeah,
they were terrible. It's like his kid pulled it out of a box and put it on the kitchen table, took a picture of it and slapped it online.
I can't tell you how many brands I've taken from one photo to 7 photos in a video and A+ content. And then they're like surprised when their sales triple.
Yes. So exactly. So it's funny when you put it in those terms, you're like, we're not surprised that the value is higher for a brand that's done that work to actually optimize their listings.
So I think most of my audience is probably in category 3 already. Yeah. So let's talk about this fourth one, going direct to consumer. This is the one that maybe only 5 to 10% of my core audience has done. And this is probably the core of where we need to have most of our discussion. So how do I know when I've got a heavily branded private label brand where I've done the A+ con, I've got the trademark, I'm a $1 million brand. Should I be focused on Shopify? Why or why not?
And the 2 ways I would answer that question, and we've touched a little bit on them, but one is, what is my timeline? So just acknowledge the nice thing about Amazon is that if you get the right marketing team in place, you can get traction on listings pretty quickly. Like that's kind of the beauty of Amazon. With a direct-to-consumer funnel, I'm going to have to try some things. It's a little bit more of an art than a science, unless I already have a huge list, have a huge social media following. And so the first thing I'm going to ask is, how quickly do I need return on investment? And if I don't have a lot of cash, if I don't have a lot of time, what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose to not try to go direct to consumer. I'm going to stay focused on marketplace because I'm trying to exit in the next year, or I just don't have a lot of capital in my business and I'm running out of cash already. The flip side of that is if I have a little bit more time and I'm willing to view this as a fundamentally huge investment in my business and my brand, I am going to do this right. I'm going to have to hire the right people. I'm going to have to spend a lot of money on ads, and I'm going to have to build a database. I'm going to have to measure it. I'm going to have to screw it up sometimes. But if I have that horizon where I don't need the return on investment until later, I think the worst mistake I see is when people kind of half-ass direct to consumer, right? If you're like, I'll just kind of sort of do this, let me spend $1,000 a month on ads, and certainly it'll work. And the problem is it almost never does. And so that's the first question, is related to timeline.
So let's walk through these KPIs as well. So what does ROWC mean?
Yeah, so return on capital is the CFO nerd way of saying, think about this like real estate, Stephen. If you and I were to buy a house and we made $1 million when we sold the house, we wouldn't know how happy we are unless we knew how much money we had to invest. How much did we have to put down when we bought the house to make that return on investment? And so understanding how much of your hard-earned capital, begged, borrowed, stolen, you're having to leave in your business to generate your profit each year, that factor is called return on working capital. If you study the great CEOs like Warren Buffett that know how to allocate resources, the best thing that they do is optimize around, I only have a finite, tiny pile of resources. How do I apply those resources to get me as much profit as I can get? And so, for instance, this is the way to look at this is if I have two products, one of them has a really high profit margin, but I only like turn the inventory like once every 2 years. I've got to sit on a bunch of cash. I actually might not want to keep that product. I might want to go for one that's a little bit lower profit margin, but I can move it because profit divided by cash gives me that return on capital. I know that it wasn't like the core topic of this conversation, but it's something that we got to be focused on. And here's what it's allowed me to do for our CFO clients. I could get a stack rank of every single ASIN you have and help you understand which one's your favorite, because it's going to be how profitable is it and how many times do I get to reinvest that same inventory dollar each year, which is essentially what's the velocity, right? So it's like velocity and profit put together get you return on working capital. And I can't find an argument for not focusing on that metric for everybody.
So let's move to PAG. What does PAG mean?
So PAG is what, if you're an Amazon seller, PAG is what we mean when we say it's real gross profit, right? Post advertising gross profit. Let's take our gross profit on our P&L, but let's go down one line further to include our advertising expenses, because guess what? I can get a bunch of product to move if I dump a ton of money into advertising. So I want to understand how profitable my products are after ads. PAG is an absolutely crucial metric to keep an eye on per product, per channel.
And then finally, LTV. This is the one that most people probably recognize in the audience, lifetime value. Is this something that people should be calculating as an Amazon-only brand?
Yeah, it's just more difficult. I mean, I'd actually like to ask you this question. Like, if you had an Amazon-only brand, or maybe 95% plus Amazon, Stephen, how would you try to calculate LTV, lifetime value of a customer, in a way that's helpful? Have you found any way that's helpful there?
It's extremely difficult because Amazon took the ability away to really see your LTV. Yeah. Like, you don't get your customer data these days. So you have to make some assumptions, or you have to run some massive API calls to really calculate that. So I would say LTV is not part of the decision-making today with most Amazon brand sellers because of that.
I agree. And so, I think the pivot happens as soon as direct to consumer becomes a core focus, even if it has to be. It's all of a sudden you've got to focus on it, because the beauty, and this is something, if you're a recent marketplace seller, you might have forgotten this, but what Amazon has done is they've co-branded with us. And so people are buying Prime plus Tyler's product, Prime plus Steven's product. And as a result, yes, it's hard to get the data, but we're in bed with Amazon. We're happy to pay them the fees because they make it really easy to advertise if we have a good product. As soon as we actually own the customer experience on a direct-to-consumer site, we now have the luxury of retargeting. Remember that term that we learned in like marketing, like forever ago? It's like we could actually grab the email address and 6 months later send them an offer without having to advertise to them, because we already own the relationship. The value of that ongoing relationship, how many average times is that customer going to repurchase? A great example is if I'm selling supplements and I can get someone to convert to my brand of iron supplement, for instance, I'm going to have a relatively—
and there's 100 of those supplement brands out there. But if you win them and get the brand loyalty, it churns. It just keeps churning and churning for lifetime value. I'll give you another example. So Dollar Shave Club, those dudes spent $80 to acquire a $20 customer. What the heck, right? Yeah. Like, they had VC money to make it happen, right? But like, if you know your lifetime value is $20 and you're willing to spend 80 to acquire that customer, you're on a totally different level playing field versus the typical Amazon seller who needs to be like, okay, I can spend $20 to acquire a $40 customer, right? Or $50 to acquire a $100 customer, knowing that they're going to be break even or slight loss on the first purchase, but knowing it's going to be kickback later on. So that's where LTV definitely comes in handy. Any additional thoughts there, Tyler, before we move on from that?
No, I think that's key. You nailed it.
All right. So when we talk about those strategies, what strategy is going to make the most money?
Yeah. And so this kind of brings us back to our discussion a few minutes ago. Timeline matters. And then also that product blend, right? Remember the example from the beginning where we talked about the white paper bag guy versus the like highly differentiated cocktail shaker guy. I just think that if you're a more commoditized product, that's okay. Use data, use the marketplace, use, the algorithm within Amazon to become a preferred purchase. And then forget about direct to consumer, because you're going to generally have a much lower return on your investment if you pour a bunch of resources into trying to get a glass jar or, Kleenex, whatever. There are just lots of products that are difficult to move because you can't differentiate the brand. The flip side is if I have a differentiated offering, I have a white elephant gift coming up next week, Stephen, for my team. And I bought one of my clients. He sells a really nice down sleeping bag, right? It's really nice. I bought this thing. I would buy it on his website or on Amazon because it's a highly differentiated product. I can have a relationship with that brand. And so I'm going to make the most money knowing who I am. If I'm an arbitrage seller, don't try to be a direct consumer brand. If I'm just a simple private label brand, I might want to go ahead and upgrade to that heavily branded. Just know who you are. I think that's it. I think so many companies get in trouble, Stephen, because we don't have a strategy that lines up with our product reality.
So our customers today are a little shy on asking questions. So I want to encourage them. If you guys have any questions about product selection, strategy, marketplace strategy, you have a top tier CFO on the phone right now. What question would you want to ask them? Maybe it's about your own business. Like maybe you're struggling with a particular decision. Let's pile those questions in. We'll ask Tyler here. So, all right. So Tyler, if I'm struggling with my product selection, what's the first thing you would do as a CFO to go down that list and say, hey, you need to nix these 20 products, keep these 50, but spend most of your money on these 5? How would you do that?
Yeah, I think you mentioned the two sides of it. One is I got to decide, do I have enough cash? Do I have enough capital right now to make my next best bet?
And by the way, I've been telling people like they should be buying as much product right now as possible because of inflation, and it's buying on a discount going into next year. What's your opinion on that?
No, I think, and the third thing is just the supply chain is going to continue to be wonky for a little while. So I think the cost of stocking out, so first of all, if you can stay in between the ditches, I don't want to have 2 years of inventory on the one side, and I don't want to stock out on the other side. There's a continuum in the middle, and the economic reality forces us to err on one side or another. I tend to agree with you right now, Stephen, that if I had to screw it up, let's screw it up on the side of, if I've got the cash, let's invest in a little bit more inventory. But let's say that you look and you want to make those investments. Stephen's saying buy, but you're like, darn, I'm out of money. I can't buy. What do you do about it? You need to use that post-advertising gross profit number that I mentioned a minute ago and do an analysis of every single one of your products. By the way, if you're already using a tool, Stephen, what's your favorite tool? Is it Helium 10 managed by
Helium 10 is probably my favorite right now. I also am a big fan of PickFu, although not even closely resembling the same type of tool.
Right. So if let's just say, for instance, use Helium 10, they're a popular one out there. You take time to upload your cost of goods sold per unit into it. And then over some amount of time, it needs to be more than a month, 90 days, 6 months. Let's see how profitable these products are. And the ones that are the bottom feeders, and by the way, if you do this exercise, I've never seen a brand that doesn't have at least one product kind of killing them, right? And so get rid of the crap ones, liquidate them, and then redeploy that capital towards the brands that have the products that have more promise.
All right, Jeff Allen asks, how many variations are too many? Does that turn off customers? For the ones that I need to get rid of, where's the best place to eliminate those? It's a little bit of a liquidation question, but also kind of a skew focus 80-20 rule on this one. Tyler, what are your thoughts?
Yes, I mean, I'd love to get your thoughts here, but Jeff, my take on this would be, If you are more of a marketplace centric brand, meaning I fell into kind of that second or third category that we mentioned, then I am kind of lying to myself if I believe that having more variations is always better, right? I may actually do okay being a little bit simpler in my offering, because I think here's what we tell ourselves. My customer is going to go somewhere else to buy it if I don't have the green one and the blue one and the large one, the small one, and the extra long one, or whatever, that kind of thing. But if I'm co-branding with Amazon, where frankly they're buying because Amazon's on the box plus me, then I need to have a great keyword marketing strategy, and I may not need to have all 25. I may be able to get away with having 10 variations and simplifying my SKU count. The opposite, though, if I'm launching a website and I have that customer, then I may actually have more conversion if I have more options for the customer. But it all goes back to how much capital do I have? Because
how are they shopping? How do we invest in it? So
right.
Jeff, I would say this. I have had more clients have success by launching a brand spanking new product versus adding in a 10th variation of color or size. And so I would say right around 8 variations, and there's a lot of different ways you could calculate that. 8 colors, 4 sizes, whatever. But having too many variations can hurt your conversion rate because people just get decision paralysis. So I'd say limit that down somewhat. Let's go to Claudia. So how do I build my customer avatar? So Tyler, first of all, how would you define customer avatar?
So what I'm thinking about here is, just to pull the book, Donald Miller wrote a book, Building a Brand Story. Building a Brand Story. It's a good listen if you want to listen to it on Audible. And he makes the point that we are terrible at marketing unless we learn to put our customer in the center of the room as the hero of the story and kind of set ourselves up, so to speak. We're Yoda. He's Luke Skywalker, we're Yoda. We got to set him up for success. And so when you think about your avatar, you want to try to sort out and normally, by the way, it's a lady. What does she look like? Who is actually buying my product? What's her income look like? What is it that matters to her? Because it's so easy for me. Let's talk about, I'm talking about accounting services. It's so easy for me to be like, wow, let me tell you about this bookkeeping. You don't give a darn about bookkeeping. What you care about is your success. My job is to make you the hero of my marketing story. And your job is to build an avatar, a picture, a profile of your ideal customer and orient all of your marketing language around making that person's dreams come true.
Claudia, one of my favorite examples I use multiple times on my podcast is if I was going to sell Russian mail order brides, who would my target audience be? And the answer is 3-time divorced truck drivers. And once you say that out loud, you have your avatar because you know that you need to build content around them, traveling, hygiene, no time to date, all that kind of stuff. Let's pull back in. So I'm going to share my screen for this one. There's a question that Jeff had asked about variations. He just posted his ASIN to look at it. And, thank you. I think there were some good suggestions here. So here we have a bunch of different color variations and 2 sizes, small, medium, and large, X large. The thing I really like that you've done here, Jeff, is that not any of these are out of stock. Oh, I take that back. Here's 4 of them. It didn't look like they were out of stock, though. So I think the number one problem is if you're going to have anything out of stock, then that's causing harm to your listing, because then as a consumer, I click on large. How do I know which ones I can get and which ones I can't, right? So this one's not available. This one's not available. This one's not available. Just go down the list. So I think in this case, you might have a better opportunity to slough off the large from the small medium, even though it's going to cut your reviews down in half. You're going to have better conversions when there's not some out of stock. Now, if some of these are temporary, not a big deal, and you can get back to it. But and then if we tie that into Claudia's question, like with the customer avatar here, we're looking for people who are going to do yoga, ballet, dance, all these different things. And so this avatar here, and I like the fact that the video and the graphic kind of tie together here, kind of builds itself, right? You're able to understand like who I want to target, and then all the things that they have to do to do that. This is my favorite product module, the A+ content with a product module, where I can compare different types of socks, if that's how you would label these. And then you can see like, okay, this one does this one does that. So this is a really great use of the product module where you got a comparison chart. That also helps with your LTV. Why? Because you got average order value going up. People are going to come back and buy more of different types of products for you. All right. So I kind of monologue there. Tyler, you want to weigh in on this one at all further?
Beautiful. You nailed it.
Oh, that's a good way in. All right. Let's go to the next one. All right. So for new sellers to start from Alibaba, arbitraging products, if you will, what are the three major variables one should consider in product selection?
Well, there's something I didn't mention earlier that I feel like we need to start with is you
Sure.
have to start somewhere. You either have to start from the customer or you have to start from what am I good at? This is just the way my brain works. Like if I were going to build a brand, I would want to say, okay, wait a minute, what am I great at? What I'm great at is understanding grilling. That's something I'm good at. And then I might be able to become my own avatar. That's the easiest way, right? The easiest way to develop a differentiated brand is to understand a problem and then go solve it. If I don't have that luxury, I got no problem. What would you say to that, Stephen?
So if you can be a product expert on something that you're carrying, I think you have a huge leg up and huge advantage, right? So if I was going to go sell dental floss, but I'm not a dentist, there's thousands and millions of dentists out there that could do a better job of articulating a value prop and improving the product than me. But if I was going to go start a chess set selling brand, I'd be one of the top tier best people in the country to launch that because I was a competitive chess player. I played in the US Open and won my division. And I'm also an Amazon marketer, right? So just having that marriage of product offering. Now, I'm never going to actually go launch chess sets because it's such a commodity product, and that's a different question. But I think having some of those understanding, I would almost always go product understanding over data, but then use the data to justify the selection you've already made.
Yeah, tell me if I'm wrong here, Stephen, but it would almost be like use that product understanding to build my idea brainstorm list and then go back and use the data to prioritize
exactly
the list, right? I came up with 10 ideas. Ooh, these 3 have the right keyword volume where it might be a good opportunity. Let's take a test on it.
And I'm a marketer. I'm not a product engineer. So like, I don't know how to like physically re-engineer the product and improve it. All right. So this one's coming in from Flying Swine Seasonings. I just actually last night I actually just cooked some salmon and I put some Flying Swine seasoning on it. So shout out to their products. They're freaking tasty as heck. And so I'm gonna actually put his product on screen here. So let me grab that up here. So sharing my screen again, and let's go to the 2-shot. Perfect. So and I used the Slap Apple Bourbon. So if you are looking for something for your turkey rub this week, let me tell you, this is something you should consider. Some apple bourbon rub, so freaking tasty. That's my favorite one anyway. And there's obviously a bunch of different other options. So I made some salmon last night. We put some apple pie filling on top of our salmon. So if you're looking for some turkey day opportunities, this is definitely the product. All right. So Joe asks, hey, Stephen and Tyler, question. We're spreading out just from FBA and shipping to make up for Amazon's FUBAR'D system. We're also working hard to pull from FBA to our D2C. How do we spread out evenly? Good question.
Man, I don't know. I mean, I understand diversifying from FBA. I mean, 3PLs are the hottest commodity right now. It's hard to find a good partner. I mean, what would you say there, Stephen? Spreading it evenly. I mean, you need partners. You either need to be great at it or you need to hire someone who's great at it. And that's probably a 3PL network. And most of them stink right now. If I can just be completely candid with you, that's what I'm saying.
Well, the demand is higher than the capacity. Let's go with that. So there's no service offering out there from 3PL that's going to make you happy, essentially. So yeah, not an easy question to answer, Joe at Flying Swine. And I would say you have to have some sort of reason to get them to buy from your website versus Amazon. So one thing you could do is add in some free samples to the website orders, give some free product out, put a product insert with a hashtag and say, hey, anybody that posts my product on Instagram, I'm going to give you a $20 gift card to the website. And you can do that for Amazon orders as well. And that would be kosher. Just don't ask for reviews. Always avoid asking for reviews. All right, so let's go. And Joe, you did kind of talk a little bit about social media here. I think every product's a little bit different on this question. Anything under $20, $15 price point makes it a little bit harder because you have to invest more than you're going to make on that first order. And your hope is that they're going to come back and make that second order as well. Don Miller is the Don. Story Brand is a great book. Got a hi coming in from Jithu. Brett at FBA Excel says, what do you think about the sweet spot for price point, ROI, and PAG from the strongest brands you've seen in the recent landscape? So I would say above $20. That's the easiest answer. Probably $20 to $50 if I had to narrow it down. ROI, that's probably the hardest one to answer. Tyler, why don't you take the harder one?
Yeah, so I agree that I think the world is shifting to where I'm prioritizing. I was actually going to show you. I could show you an example that actually might illustrate this. Let me change my screen share, and you start talking about numbers, and all of a sudden things get a little. Give me 1 second here, guys.
No problem. So while Tyler's pulling that up, I'll keep it going here. So Jeff says, "Thanks, guys. You're very welcome."
All right, I think
a new product launch economics standpoint. All right, so this is a great graphic. I love this.
So here's a case study between two brands. I think you guys might find this helpful. And here's the key. PAG is my after advertising, after my Amazon fees, what my profit is. Amy's got a 20% PAG. Brian's got a 30% PAG. The difference, the X factor for these two businesses are that Brian is having to maintain 4 times as much inventory cash tied up, right? His inventory capital tied up is 4 times what Amy's is. And as a result, the return on capital is way better for Amy. And so here's my answer to your question is, if I have, first of all, I want a higher margin. I really like to see return on investment that's high. Like, let me just say this. My favorite strategy is to have a highly differentiated product so that I can, and by the way, here's what that means. Highly differentiated means that a customer will pay a higher premium above my cost of goods sold. And being able to charge a higher premium allows me more room to advertise and buy the real estate on Amazon. So my favorite strategy personally is to have more margin so that I can spend more money on advertising and my competitors when things are slow. But if you have a product that doesn't work well for, just know who you are. Like I've got clients that are more of a supply chain competitive advantage. They don't advertise very well, but they know who they are. They keep their prices low. You just got to, again, it's all about having a coordinated strategy. So I like, as a CFO, I like high margin. I like high return on investment. And let me just put it this way, that return on working capital, about 2.0 per year is the average across all of our clients. The clients that we've seen sell for maximum multiple. We had a couple of deals close at about 7x multiple earlier this year from our clients. They were at 3.5 plus return on capital. And by the way, to make that layman's terms, that return on working capital, that means for every dollar I invest in Amy's business, I get my dollar back $2.67 per year.
That's a good number.
Yeah.
So is there a way? So I think Brett's heart of his question, he's like, okay, I'm gonna choose 3 different products to launch. From Mr. CFO's standpoint, how do I know which one has the best PAG? Is there a way to tell that in advance?
Yeah, you're going to have to make some assumptions, because what you don't know in advance is you don't know exactly what your advertising is going to be required, right? I mean, Stephen, do you have a good way of like forecasting before you've even tested the product, what's your percentage of total advertising cost of sales are going to be?
We generally stick to a percentage-based suggestion on that. So minimum investment, $3,000 a product. And then 30% tacos month 1, 20% tacos month 2. And then month 3 plus, we're working towards that 11% target. And by the way, your report back in March was the first time that we changed our 10% tacos goal to 11%. And so now I have to ask you, should that number be different now? Should it be more like 12 or 13% because of all the cost increase?
For tacos? Yeah. So, I mean, tacos is the percentage of your P&L that you're allocating to advertising.
Yes. Should that number be higher now? I kind of think it should.
I guess if cost of goods sold is going up, you would argue that maybe you want tacos to be a little bit lower, right? You want to save those points, but I don't think you can afford to do that right now. And here's the reason. I mean, not only did the COGS go up, but also advertising costs went up 35% this year. So your tacos would have to come up just to maintain status quo, right? That's right. There's no way around it. And I don't think I think if you have a brand that's growing, actually, this would be a question I have for you, Stephen, because a couple of years ago when we met, you kind of had a target tacos for if you wanted to maintain the brand versus like if you wanted to actually grow it. And I agree with my intuition is that what you said is probably correct, which is that if I'm not willing to spend 12 to 14 points on ads, I'm going to have a hard time growing in my normal season. Obviously, if I'm selling inflatable, beach toys, I'm going to be able to get a better tacos and they cost during the summer. Yeah, that kind of thing.
Yeah, that makes sense. All right, let's go to the next question here. So Mark says, how do I get seller fulfilled Prime? I have a 3PL that does better than anyone. Amazon's Prime deliveries. I've seen some merchants have Prime available. Don't have it in my dashboard. How do I apply? Mark, SFP really is much harder to get into than it is, say, a year or even 3 years ago. And there is a way to apply. Giant waiting list. They make you ship on Saturdays. All kinds of challenges with that today. For most products, it's not worth it. If you have a distribution network where you got a warehouse both West and East Coast, I'd say it might be, but chances are very, very difficult to do these days. Jeff says, how much does Amazon index your product on Amazon if you have a Shopify store with the same product? So here's an interesting, I saw this on LinkedIn about a month ago. Somebody posts conclusive proof that if the item was an exclusive on Amazon, it indexed better. And we haven't even attempted to try and replicate that, but that's a really good question, Jeff. Amazon only brands values are going up, and it could very well be because Amazon give them a little bit more runway. Tyler, any thoughts on this one?
Wow. I mean, that's eye-opening. I feel like that's worthy of some test. Like if I was thinking, because I feel like the prevailing wisdom, Stephen, would have been if I
put my
have a
product
Shopify
everywhere.
site, yeah, have it everywhere. But if Amazon literally is algorithmically punishing, because let's be honest, that's what's really happening, punishing listings where they're having to share real estate with Shopify, boy, that would be eye-opening. And it would just mean that your strategy just has to be so clear. Am I really building a Shopify channel that's going to be 15, 20, 30% of my total sales? Or am I just monkeying around with 5% of my sales on Shopify? If it's 5% and what Steven said is true, there's going to be a really compelling argument for either having different packages for one channel versus the other, or just dumping the packages on Shopify because it's not going to be worth it.
Claudia says they got a follow-up question. Where can I find my customer avatar info if I don't even know who my customer is? So first thing I'd say is go look at your brand analytics dashboard, at least get some demographics on this. I'll share my screen and walk through this a little bit. So if you go into brand analytics, and I'm going to share my screen here, got to find the right thing to share. All right, so I'm gonna remove you, add me. Okay, so in here, in your brand analytics dashboard, to get here, cursor on brands, brand analytics, you do have to have brand registry to make this happen. Go over to demographics in here. So if you're wondering what the average age demographic, and you got to switch this to like quarterly data here, hit apply. So in here, we know that the average age of somebody that buys products from my Mobster account is between 25 and 34, highest avatar there by a considerable 5% over the next grouping. And you can see here, almost nobody under the age of 24 is buying from me. So I'm going to definitely be focused on average demographic of a 30-year-old female. And as we go down here, we can see a lot of data. As we keep going down, we can see, okay, do rich people buy affluent people, or is it run of the mill? Get kind of a percentage breakout here. So we know that the average is going to be somewhere between 50,000 and 100,000 household income. So that's a good number to know. And then education, some college, you can get some breakdowns on that as well. Finally, we get down to gender. Here's the most telling one. I think this is the one that usually shocks the most people. So, and I'll give you an example. There was a blowtorch that we were selling with a client. I did a coaching call, and I thought it was a male product because I was like, oh yeah, you're gonna actually, excuse me, I thought it was a female product because I was like, oh, it's going to be for somebody who makes creme brulee and wants to impress their man or whatever, right? And we go look at the data, and it was like 70% male purchasing it, and it blew my mind. I was like, whoa, what's the case? And so we go look at all the secondary products, competitors, and lo and behold, a bunch of dudes who are probably two-time divorced guys, Tinder dates, whatever. They're cooking some food, doing some cool action in the kitchen, and then after that, they light up a cigar. And there's a bunch of pictures of cigars being lit with these, mini kitchen blow torches. And so like we figured that data out from the brand analytics and completely reshaped the entire strategy. And then we switched out the women's shots for men's shots, et cetera, et cetera. So I think the gender one is probably the most important one. And by the way, the marital status on that account was heavily pushed single, which was also informative because then we were like, oh, people are using it on dates. It's definitely happening. So that's how I'd use at least to get the initial impression there, Claudia. Tyler, anything to add on the avatar front?
No, other than just to say that this is a really core question, Claudia, and somebody, joined my shout out for Don Miller's book earlier. I think you're going to know more about your customer than you think you do, but then you also have to do it, Stephen just said, which is test those assumptions. I think this is who she is. Let me make sure. And building that avatar is so crucial because, like Steven said, you might have pictures of ladies on your listings when your conversion would improve 25% just having dudes in there. And so I think taking the time to really, now, if you don't know and there's no other way to get the data and you don't trust the Amazon data, you may do some A/B testing with photos that kind of highlight different avatars. That could be one way to triangulate the data. If you are doing direct to consumer, you may be able to use, is this a tool that helps?
So this is the best A/B testing tool. So pickfood.com/myamazonguy. We're a premier partner with them, and you can get 50% off your first order here. So we've run a bunch of tests to like figure out, okay, should we run this as the main image? Okay, how does ours do against the competitor? Should we select the different product idea? Should we be launching pink versus blue? All those kinds of questions. Really great tool for that. So check that out if you guys are struggling with your avatar and wondering like, hey, should it be a female? Should it be a male? Should it be pink? Should it be blue? Whatever it also might be. Cool. All right. So Tyler's, we've got through the questions on the list here. Add some value. What's the number one thing people should do to grow their Amazon account today?
Gosh, that is a great question. Yeah. I mean, obviously, hire my Amazon guy and seller accountant, right? No, I think
there you go.
I think that if you've never taken the time to analyze the profitability of each of your product offerings, man, I'm torn as to whether it's manage and prioritize higher profit products, or to do the exercise we were talking about with Claudia there, which is I got to know who I'm selling to so that I can make sure that I'm not sending mixed messages. It's really difficult for the even Chinese hacker sellers to compete with our understanding of the inner workings of the American customer. Oh, what's up, Jim?
Yeah, we got Jim here. So shared client as well on this one. So hello, guys. I've got a ton of stock I want to liquidate now. I'm thinking this holiday season would be a great opportunity. But I am worried if I substantially reduce prices on Amazon, will it have a negative impact on my better ASIN with the same variations? Would you separate and create a parent for the liquidation items? Or do you know of any other way to dump a bunch of product quickly outside of Amazon? So I'll take this one first and then go to you, Tyler. So Jim, I don't think I would recreate parentages. Knowing your catalog and as complex as it is, I don't even think it's worth recreating the parentage. I think there'll be more negative disadvantages than any net benefits you could gain there. The second thing I'll say is Amazon's a terrible platform for liquidation. So it's not a great platform to move product quickly. Even if you lowered prices on variations that are not moving today, I think you would struggle to see their sales improve. Because there's usually generally a reason outside of pricing that they're not moving. Now, if you have a seller that's moving 30 units a month and you lower the price on that one, I would predict you'd increase the sales 50 to 100% by decreasing price by 25% overnight. So that I would predict. Obviously, so Jim, you have some great items that make good gifts. They're compression arm sleeves and great products under B-driven matrix. But I would say you probably are not going to succeed with liquidation strategies on Amazon, unfortunately. But there are some pennies on the dollar options now available where they do give you ability to donate to Amazon charities, stuff like that. Tyler, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree. And Jim, I know we've been talking about this for a year now, so I know how frustrating it is. And I wish there was a way, this is just brainstorming. This is like take off CFO boy. This is just brainstorm here. I wish there was a way, Jim, that you can almost like do like add one into the box for something else and kind of add a little something extra if you're going to dump it anyway. I mean, if it's burn pile or giveaway, find a way to give it away in a way that might garner you some additional reviews on another product or something like that. I agree.
Free product giveaway for like Instagram posts, and post a picture of me wearing your product will give you another free arm sleeve. Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, something like that allows you to get any kind of marketing juice.
Brand equity.
More. Yeah, you may get more in that marketing juice than you get getting a few pennies on the dollar. I got to tell you this also, Jim. I have so many clients that are frustrated with the kind of, as much as we're pissed off with 3PLs, we're also pissed off with liquidators out there. They tend to be not very good at what they do. And it is challenging. I just want to encourage you. It's like putting back on economics boy hat here. Don't get stuck in the sunk cost fallacy. You already spent the money on those goods. Find a way to dump it and free your brain so you can go make money doing something else.
It's a great tip there. Is it possible to deliver my own inventory to an FBA center? So I'm not sure exactly what Rebby Green's getting at here, but if you're wondering if you can like set up a shipment from your own warehouse and go deliver it yourself to FBA, the answer is yes, but it's not that easy. And then if you want to, obviously anybody can ship an inventory into FBA and sell it on Amazon. So I think that's why I was suspecting the question was related to that. Claudia says, thank you very much, Stephen and Tyler. You're very welcome. So Tyler, if somebody wants to get more information out of Seller Accountant, where should they go?
Yeah, selleraccountant.com is the kind of quick and easy. Love to.
And you guys are fractional CFO, bookkeeping. What else?
That's it. We are so clean and simple. If you're trying to get ready to sell or you want to get your books in order because you just want to make more money, you might need some financial coaching. You might not. Seller Accountant could be a partner for you.
And what's a good size that somebody should be to be a good target audience for you? Like what's their growth?
Yeah, I think if you're not doing 20 to 25K a month in revenue, I'm going to have a hard time coaching you to spend a lot of money on your accounting. Maybe you just go ahead and open a QuickBooks Online account and try to do it on your own. As soon as you crest that kind of $250,000 a year in revenue, this is one hat you want to take off EEO and really focus on growing your business.
All right. Well, Tyler, Jefcoat, thank you so much for coming on the My Amazon Guy podcast. Numbers don't make for the most sexiest conversation on a podcast, but you make it very easy to understand. And I took a picture while we were in the podcast with one of your graphics with the bright lines. I think it was great. Shared it on LinkedIn. So if you're watching this, you want to get a copy of the graphic Tyler shared, you can go to my LinkedIn and go check out selleraccountant.com. That's our podcast today. We don't have a live Q&A coming up on Friday because it's Thanksgiving 5 Turkey Day 5 weekend, if you will. So you guys all have a great one. We'll see you a week on Friday. My name is Stephen Pope, and I'm the founder of My Amazon Guy. Cheers.